All right, hello guys. Long time no see. Welcome back to another Summers Out podcast episode. I'm here with
Yeah, it's Jordan. We're back. We're
and
back,
it's
guys.
Namir. Let's go, guys.
Oh man, I can't believe it. We're actually back. This is not just a summer thing. I know our name is called Summers Out
Yeah,
Podcast,
yeah,
but nah, guys, we just had to lock in. We had a busy semester, so it's new second year vibes. A lot of people say that second year might be some of the hardest, if not third year as
sure.
well. So just had to lock in, get good grades.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
how's the semester been for you, Namir?
I mean, obviously organic chemistry two. Big jump from organic chemistry one, but we obviously studied hard. Try to stay away from all the bad stuff. Try to lock in seriously, especially you.
Of course.
I know Jordan was locked in the entire time. I was going off on my own self, doing random stuff, side quest,
I wouldn't say I was locked in the whole time, but I was locked. I was locked in for most of it. Of course. I was still locked in.
And obviously we had, thank God, no more Calc 2. None of that stupid calculus courses. We had stats, but stats was pretty nice. Our prof was very nice. Shout out, I am Liu, Jack.
Yeah, shout out Jack, man.
Shout
I
out
love
Jack.
that guy, Jack, man. I know a lot of people, you might see online or stuff that like say he might be like the worst or whatever. I'm telling you guys, I know like he might not be like the greatest and like with his accent or anything, but I'm telling you, he's like one of the best teachers ever. You'll be able to learn a lot from him. And shout out to Jack. I love Jack.
Shout out to Jack. 10% MCQ.
10%.
No hate, but I mean,
Yeah.
you're a great guy.
I can't like grades. Game was kind of cooked, but
Yeah.
it's all good.
And then obviously we had the opportunity to take some electives this time, so
Mhm.
we both took some pretty good electives, and that kind of helped balance out the stress a little bit.
We're-
And then I guess some people took physics. Obviously, we didn't take physics, thankfully.
Thank
We
God.
survived that. But yeah, how was your experience?
Oh yeah, my experience was crazy. Like at the start of the sem, I was like locked in, like damn near hibernating. I was like, yo, like I gotta lock in my grades. Like I didn't sell last time, but like Calc 2 was kind of stupid. So I had to lock in. I locked in for, of course, first midterm. All my midterms were chill. My classes were generally chill. Actually, I could tell you what my classes were actually. So I had Orgo 2, of course. I had psychology. I had a psychology, like a lifespan psychology. Which was pretty good. I had stats, like you said, and then I also took a witchcraft. Telling you guys, if you have an elective, take online witchcraft. SRS 1100. I'm telling you guys, easiest A plus you could ever take. It's free marks, and I hope you guys can actually take it. And I'll say like it was so good that like I could like spend so much more focus on my other three subjects. Like you'll see like Orgo 2 was a lot you had to study for. Even like a bit of stats. The reason why stats was hard is that it's not the actual content that's necessarily hard. It's more so the grading scheme. Like Namir said earlier, we had 10% multiple choice. So as soon as you get one wrong, already down to a 90. That could be very discouraging. I remember one time, I don't think Namir was there. Oh, other friend Dimitri, he was there, and I was reading out my grade because I just saw the notification. I see that I got a 90. I slammed the desk so hard. This guy was asking like, "What the hell just happened?" And then, but no, yeah, I was pissed that day. But we survived. We survived.
I know a lot of people in my class because like on our tests, on our midterms, it was usually like 6 MCQ, which means 60% is just divided into 10% each. So if you mess one up, even mess a tiny bit of a calculation up, your 10% is gone. And if you lose two, 80, 3, 70. And if you lose, I mean, usually on the long answers, he was pretty nice. Even if you were a little bit off, he gave you like the TAs were nice. They gave you like the majority of the marks. But still, those MCQ were brutal.
You're not wrong, bro. Like again, like the MCQs, like it's not even like the content was hard. It's just doing the MCQs, fearing that you might get one wrong. We got like a graph question. If you can't understand the graph, 10 off there, and you can like get like a question like you just never studied before. You study the general stuff, but not the more in depth. 90 low, you get to a 90.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, it's tough out here. It's tough out here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we wanted to talk to you guys about today was things we could talk about when you want to prepare for pre-med. God damn, I can't talk. Okay. Yeah, you could say it better. You could say it better.
I mean, today, obviously it's winter break. So, for us right now, and we just kind of wanted to talk about the pre-med pathway and kind of things you should be focusing on, especially Canadian pre-med, since it's so different to American pre-med, where American pre-med, you're really focusing on these kind of stereotypical, shadowing, clinic stuff. Canadian pre-med is more about your kind of creative, artistic, more about your personality, stuff you enjoy doing. And so Jordan and I really wanted to talk about that today. And so I'll let Jordan start off since he's doing a lot of stuff right now.
So, dang, okay, yeah, see, I knew this guy could say it way better than me. I don't know why I can't. Maybe lack of water now. Okay, so I'll start off with, let's go into volunteering. So I knew when I was in high school, I didn't know a lot about volunteering. I knew a little bit, like you can do volunteering, like working at clinics, stuff like that. I know they take in some high school students. If you're willing to apply, by the way, guys, the best way to apply is either you go on their website and apply, or you just do a cold email. Like, I know a lot of people say like, oh my God, how do I get these connections? Oh my God, how do I go to these conferences and try and talk to people? I can't talk to people. I'm an introvert. I'm telling you guys, if you're able to just cold email them, the worst thing that can happen is that they just don't even look at your email. Like, they're not going to send a bad response saying like, what the hell are you doing? Don't talk to me anymore. Like, they're not going to be like that. They have busier things to do anyways. So just sending out emails, just being like, hey, I've seemed fascinated into what you guys do and what you're about. Maybe I've been there before, I've been to the clinic before, and I wanted to help out. I know me personally, I work as a volunteer at a nursing home. So, because like I had like family and grandparents, going to the nursing home. So I was like, hey, maybe let me get into that type of volunteering because I like what they do and working around with the other individuals that help people. So I was like, okay, let me go into that. I know a lot of friends, they do like mentorship and stuff like that, like where they go over to help certain kids, like for tutoring or guiding them or being good role models. Like, do you have a couple of friends that also do mentorship and stuff like that?
Yeah, I know a couple of people who do like the in-university kind of volunteering, like the mentoring center. A lot of my friends are part of that. So.
Oh yeah, I remember Kevin. He was telling me he was about the mentoring center. I knew that.
Yeah.
And I'd say doing those things, and then another really good one that you could even do right in high school is tutoring. They have different programs like peer tutoring, peer volunteer, peer coworker, things like that, where you can help younger peers like that also need help. I remember when I was in high school, I signed up for peer tutoring. I tutored grades under me and 2 years under me, so helping them with things like math and biology, science, things that like a lot of people usually struggle with. So you have to help out like where you can for volunteering, and don't be scared about like maybe I might not get it or what these people might think of me or maybe your high school clout per se. Like, I'm telling you, those things do not matter by the time you get out of high school, guys. Like, all your popularity and stuff, yeah, you can be popular in your school, but once you get out of that school, guys, it's not worth it. You're not going to know like half the people there.
So I think you brought up a really good point about like not caring about what other people think. Because like usually when I hear that, okay, yeah, we have other second years who are hospital volunteering or doing kind of these kind of stereotypical things that you would see maybe in American pre-med, or you would think it's not as useful, they tend to feel discouraged because they get this hate or this like kind of commentary, this feedback from other people saying, it's stereotypical, you shouldn't be doing something like this.
Exactly.
But I think you should obviously think to yourself, do your research, get your backup information to really justify if you really think this is worth it. And I think for hospital volunteering or clinic volunteering, it's really good, but it's also how you explain your experience. It's not just about, okay, you did this, it's pretty it's useless because it's everyone else is doing it. It's how you phrase it. Because when you put it in your OMSAS application, it's how you word it, and it's how you experienced it. So that was a really good point you brought up. And I volunteer in a senior home as well. I volunteer with a couple other friends, and it's kind of a unique experience. I definitely would recommend it if you guys have a senior home near you to definitely go and apply to those, because those kind of combine like a little bit of palliative care, kind of person on person interactions, also logistical experience. It's kind of a mix of everything. And working at children's hospices or like volunteering at a hospital, but also something out of the ordinary. Like I have a couple of relatives who went to med school in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Obviously, they have different requirements than Ontario, but it's kind of the same gist. And what they did was they started, like when they were in high school, they started volunteering at this camp. And every year until they applied to med school, they used to work at the camp, and then soon they got a job at the camp. So definitely a recommendation, not only for high school students but for university students as well, is to start with something and slowly transition as you expand onto it. You know, when you start off, I think they were like a volunteer in the beginning, then they became a senior volunteer, and then they were able to grow that experience into like a paid job as a camp counselor, and then they were able to word that on their OMSAS application into something very useful. Um, right now, I'm only volunteering in a children's hospice and a senior home, but I hope to find something like that on myself, to kind of expand on that experience, and hopefully maybe I'll get a job at the senior home or maybe I'll work at the children's hospice. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, volunteering is kind of like a crucial thing. It's kind of the one thing that a lot of people think it doesn't really benefit you, but kind of creates your personality to sense who you are. It should represent who you are, and that's really all the things that you should put on your med school application.
Exactly. And before we go on to the next point, you did mention something very impactful about growing through your thing. You want to have longevity in these type of things, like how you said your cousin, it was that they grew from going volunteering to them becoming a camp counselor. Starting these things early can help show like the people who are doing admissions or the admissions committee, showing how you're more in depth and it's not just a one-off thing, just trying to pad stats. Because the last thing people wanted to see is you just padding stats 5 hours here, 5 hours there. You don't really have any consistency, and if you don't have consistency, how can they count on you to be consistent in their program?
Right.
So they want to be able to see your longevity throughout these volunteering extracurriculars, and like how you said before, doing things like starting early, working through that job, working out positions really helps to complete that role.
And I wanted to say one thing about what you said about cold emailing these places. Very impactful. That'll segue into our next segment, which is research. Let's go.
Okay.
For me, research was kind of one of the main things that I wanted to do, entering into university, because I always thought, research is kind of like the foundation of absolutely everything. When you think about it, it's the foundation for research, for like English, literature. When you're talking about math, you're talking about, proofs and principles of equations and, medicine and biology, and literally everything you can think of. Research is the building block. And I always thought that idea was so interesting because I had so many family members who were invested into it. And so in my first year, I was at CHIO, doing like emergency department research. And then now I've done some more research that apply to my interests. And it was mainly due to cold emailing, which is why I took Jordan's, little quip about cold emailing volunteer places, to do the same with profs and to do it as soon as possible. And I know it's very discouraging, because I see that a lot of my friends who started off, have really good GPAs or even have really poor GPAs, go in and they feel discouraged because they get so many rejections or even no replies. And that's pretty common. But you just have to understand that if you're not pushing forward to do something that you really want, then you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to be able to be the persistent person that maybe med school committees are looking for. And I think that's one of the qualities and kind of one of the first tests that you go into when entering into university, is having that persistence.
No, yeah, you are very, very in depth in that. I'll be honest to myself. When I was in high school, I didn't know anything about research, guys. Like I went to like a high school that was just, you just do good grades, you participate here or there, and then you go off to college. Like I wasn't into like more of the academia type of stuff. So my perspective on research is like, I think you do need to do it because it helps build character, it helps build connections, being able to collaborate with other people. Because if you can't collaborate with other people, then why would you even try and be a doctor, to be honest? So like it shows your collaboration skills and your innovation skills to try and produce maybe papers or what you're researching on to find new findings and stuff like that. But in a way, how we can you can get research, because a lot of people say, "Oh my God, I can't get research. I always get rejected. I always find like people that always somehow get it, and I can't. Like, what's the secret sauce?" And I'm telling you guys, it's not really a secret sauce. Like the secret sauce is being able to try and do different methods if one doesn't work, and being able to adapt. First I'll always say start with cold emailing. Start with cold emailing. If you can't do cold emailing, like maybe you're too scared or something, then I would say try and reach out to somebody who might know somebody, friends of a friend or mutuals, and then try and get to talk to that mutual. So then if you know, you can talk to that mutual and try and see if they can get you into something, like things like that. I know a lot of people do conferences, like they go to a conference and they'll be like, hey, like, can I introduce myself? I want to see what type of work you're into, or going like to those events where people do posters and stuff like that. You can talk to people who've done actual research, and then seeing maybe they have a spot for you. Maybe they're looking for someone to help be under their wing, or they want to mentor someone. So you can look for mentorship like that. And I think research is a very valuable skill to have going into pre-med and being into medicine in general. And I like the way how you phrased it, where you've always wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I haven't always wanted to do it, but I think it is very valuable. I think it is.
And I think you said some really good points that I wanted to add to, especially like one thing I wanted to say was like on OMSAS, which is like the portal that you're applying to. Some universities actually require research. Especially, I'm pretty sure I only know U of T off the top of my head, because they're a very research oriented kind of university, and they're surrounded by some of the greatest hospitals in the world. So I guess a general tip would be definitely do research, or like do not just general research, but do research into what you're applying into OMSAS to make sure you're looking through like your CanMed roles and um, kind of what you need for your application, because I believe there's maybe 30 plus entries for every application. UOttawa looks at your top three for every single section. U of T, I'm not sure, but I know they for sure have research as a box or as a column for your entry. So definitely consider trying to fill that up whenever you're applying. And I think a really good point that you said was about connections. And what I found was that when I was applying to the lab that I'm in, is that in addition to GPA, which we'll talk about later, they often look for people who have a passion for what you're doing, and I think that's such an amazing thing when profs tend to overlook like GPA. Maybe they don't look over extracurriculars because that creates your person, but they look at the whole picture. They don't just focus on that number. And I often talked about this. I talked about this in the Open Loop podcast. Go check that out. But I talked about how GPA is like a number that represents who you are, and that kind of invalidates a lot of people's feelings. And so what I found with the researchers that I've worked with is that they look for people who actually enjoy what you're researching. And like say if it's biology, like if you're actually interested in biology, maybe your grades are like 3.0, 2.9, but you really love biology and you're willing to work hard for it. Well, you may have a 2.9, 3.3, but maybe you have an A plus in biology.
Exactly.
So you really, when you're doing research, my main recommendation is to not just apply everywhere, but look for unique roles, but also look for something you're interested in. And I guess my last point before we move on to the next stuff really quickly was connections. I know we talked about connections, conferences. If you're at UOttawa, the SSA hosts the Wine and Cheese event and other events at USRO, which is also a great opportunity for students if you want to work with a prof and do a poster presentation at the end. But it's a great way to connect, because even if you don't get into medicine and you think, oh, well, I don't really know what type of career can fit for me, medicine isn't working out, well, you can connect with the profs and hopefully something like that.
You did bring up something really important. I feel like you should go back into like what is USRO, because it's a very unique thing. Me personally, I didn't decide to join it, so I actually kind of want to learn a bit along with you guys. What is USRO? Like, what does it entail? What do you have to do for it? How do you apply and like get like a position? for research? Like, just talk about USRO.
That's actually a really good question, and I think, well, USRO is something that I didn't know entering. Obviously, we know the big names like NSERC, USRA, whatever, but USRO was kind of like those minor things that people started talking about into second year. It was when the first year can apply is second year. You need a minimum GPA, CGPA of 7.5, I believe. You should not have received the award before. So usually if you're second year, you probably wouldn't have received it. And there's some other requirements. I can send the link maybe on the website or something. But usually you have to find the prof on your own. You need to submit a proposal, which is usually created by your prof. And when your prof creates the proposal, they have to follow a list of requirements, which are also on the website, about like, what is your student going to do? What is the project about? What tools are they going to use? How this will help them in the future? How will this help them attain their goals? And then the student will write kind of this maybe 1 to 2 page document about, why they wanted to join the lab, why research is so important to them, how this will help their future goals, and then obviously a copy of your transcript. And I want to do USRO mainly because I joined a lab before actually doing USRO, but I really wanted to kind of have this conference type of thing that you see, like Connecting Young Minds and Ignite and USCC, but I never had time for those. And so USRO is a great opportunity if you found a prof to just email Dr. Mark Ecker, who's the current lead on this project, and be able to partake in a symposium and do your project and actually be able to learn the skills in a very organized fashion. And so a lot of my friends applied and we ended up getting it. I believe, according to one of my friends, that the acceptance rate is around 20%. I'm not entirely too sure about that number, so don't hold me for that. But it's definitely a great opportunity. It's also applicable to second years, third years, fourth years, and I think fourth to fifth years if you're taking your fifth year. So yeah, I think it's a really great opportunity, and I would really recommend it for students who are interested in research. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, I might even have to take a look into that because it does sound really interesting to me. I just never heard about it before, and when he talked about it one time, I forget who we were with, but you were talking about it one time. I was like, "Oh, what is that?" Try to look into it. I was like, "Dang, I should have applied to it when I had the chance." But it happens. It happens. Okay, so going on to the next topic. Before going on to like grades and stuff like that, I want to bring up one like pretty not necessarily like low topic. It is very important, and I want to talk about involvement in your community. So like there's many ways you can involve yourself in your community, whether it's through clubs, like maybe different clubs that you like to join or things that you enjoy about, or joining different teams or sports teams. Like I know when I was in high school, I was joining sports and basketball teams, and that also led me to be involved into coaching and then coaching younger individuals who wanted to gain skills in basketball and stuff. Those are ways that you can involve yourself into a community. Also know for me, there's the BSA, Black Student Association. I mean, that is particularly to Black people, but there's also many other groups that have those type of things. Like I know there's ones for Muslims, there's ones for many different types of groups. And I think if you're able to involve yourself into communities or clubs that are around you and things that you like to enjoy about, those also help lead to building up your character and leading to more things you can talk about on your extracurriculars and how they improve your certain skills that you want to add. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a really good point. Obviously, I mean, in high school, I was definitely not as sporty. I mean, I wanted to be sporty, but the people on the volleyball team were so good. They were insane at the game, and I just couldn't keep up. But I did decide to join student council, which was kind of like a weird experience. I wasn't in one of those kind of typical roles you would see. I wasn't like a treasurer or secretary. I was STEM ambassador, which is kind of like a role they kind of made up the year before I graduated. So I thought, why not? Turns out there was only 2 applicants, me and this other girl, and thankfully I got it. But this role kind of allowed me to host math help sessions every now and then, even though I wasn't the best at the math there. But I was able to grab some of my friends who were like, Waterloo students, Queens students, really good now. But community involvement is definitely a very important thing, and this ties back to the general volunteering thing. But community involvement in particular is very important to help your people skills, and it definitely shapes who you are as a person, and definitely kind of shows I guess if you're an extrovert or introvert, how you're able to kind of balance that with your interpersonal skills. And that's really, really important. And my brother and I are like complete opposites. I'm super extroverted. I embarrass my friends a lot because I'm so outgoing in that sense. I'm not bragging, don't worry. There's obviously downsides to that. I often make people very uncomfortable by doing so. And then my brother's very introverted, but he has people skills when he needs them. And I think that's such like a beautiful thing to have.
No, yeah, that is very beautiful. I know what you mean by your brother. Like he has like a flip of a switch
Right.
when he's like around people and stuff, but he's definitely more
Yeah.
introverted. That's like me most of the time. Not gonna lie. Like I said, like I was telling you guys earlier, I like hibernate and stuff. Like I was like lucky alone, like just working on my skills, my crafts, my extra things that I gotta do, like volunteering, research, and all that. So, and then when I'm around people, then you can switch it up. You can switch it up a notch, and that's messed up the wording, but I'm gonna turn up a knob or
Yeah.
switch it up, and those are really good people skills that you need to learn to
Right.
have be able to communicate with people. Communication is very important, guys. I love that. Okay, so thing that a lot of people want to know about getting good grades, school, GPA and all that. So we got a few tips. We got a few tips to help you guys. I know a lot of people struggle with things like physics or chemistry or the hard sciences in general, And you also can't let yourself slip up on like the easier subjects, like maybe English or like a religion subject if you're in a Catholic school. So I would say things that can help you get good grades is first, you have to set a foundation of good time management. Like, I can't tell you guys how much enough time management is really key. It's not only saying time management to be able to delegate different tasks, but it's more so having good management to not be able to burn out. Because a lot of people that I see going into high school, like senior year and stuff, they're like, oh my god, I gotta get good grades, I gotta make it to college. Like these aren't even like people that are just trying to make it like in pre-med, just trying to get into college in general. They always try to go head first into everything, like try and do everything as every second of the day. And then you find them by Christmas time and you see them all burnt out, they're tired, they become more lethargic, they're more lazy, and then going on to like February, March, they're nowhere to be seen. They're just telling you, oh, like, that's the thing of the past. I already got locked in, I'll keep my 70%. But we know as pre-meds, that's not good enough for us, especially Canadian pre-meds. We know that's not good enough for us. So I'll say having good time management is very key. Do you have anything you want to add about
Yeah, I mean, GPA is definitely it's very different for all schools. Like everyone has their own interpretation of it, but I think you made a very good point about grade 12 being kind of like one of the more important years.
Okay, guys, we're back. Yeah, just little technical difficulties with the camera for a second. So, do you want to like repeat what you like said?
Yeah,
about
for
time
sure.
management?
So Jordan brought up a really good point about time management. Jordan brought up a really good point about time management, especially when you're in high school. In grade 12, when you're like applying to universities and say maybe you got into your first choice in like November, and then I know some person who got into aerospace engineering at Carleton started giving up in October, 1 month in, because they got their acceptance instantly. Some people maybe have gone into Waterloo, their top choice, by like December, started giving up in January. Western Med Sci, like U of T, CS, So you really have to be able to understand. And something I did was I definitely burnt out. And that's something like I kind of regret, but it depends on your situation and how you interpret it. Because everyone's situation is different. But I definitely do think that you should be treating every day and every time that you're in school how you would if you're trying to achieve the goal that you want to. That was worded horribly, but basically, any time of the day and any day and every day, you should be treating every day like you're working 100% to your goal. And I think something my dad told me when I was a young and I never really understood, and he keeps telling me to this day, to the point till it gets pretty annoying, but now I really understand it, is that whenever you do something, put 100% of your effort in, no matter what. You study hard, and when you have a break, play hard, play 100%, become the best. And some people may take that advice literally. I recommend it. you should be putting 100% of your effort anytime. And I know that, especially in grade 12, after you get your acceptance and you only have to maintain an average, it's kind of like, eh. But you never know when this information or whenever your grades might come back to you, because life is unpredictable. Maybe the company you're applying for might look at your grade 12 high school transcript and be like, you got a 95 in calc. How did it jump to 70? How did you jump 25%? And I was like, that's really interesting. I mean, companies might not do that, but I would say in order to stay consistent, it's important to understand what your goals are.
Exactly. That's a very good point. And I'll give like some tips to like actually get the good grades now. So like things like some tools that you could use to help study for these good grades. Because I know, especially with memorization, no promo. I wish they would sponsor us, but like they can't. But I'm telling you guys, using Anki is like the lifesavers of lifesavers when you're trying to do good on memorization things. Like just being able to have wait, let me see if I have it. I might have it in my bag. Okay, no, I do have it. Guys, getting this Anki remote is really beneficial, especially when you're like somebody like me who is also going to the gym and like working out. When you're on the Stairmaster or treadmill at the end of because you always got to do cardio, You can't be, you're going to get heart problem. So I'm telling you guys, getting an Anki remote and getting Anki the app, I'm telling you, it's only $39, $40 for a one-time like buy, and it will save your goddamn life. Like, I'm not lying. I started getting it this year, used it for Orgo and psychology, and it was a complete game changer. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Do you have any other tips?
I discovered Anki first year. I think I was gonna use it in high school, but I was like, there's no way high school information is that deep enough to. I honestly regret that now, but I never thought it was deep enough in high school. But honestly, this tool applies to everyone. When I first started using Anki, I thought it's a really old UI, like a very old user interface, and I thought this is who really uses this? It's so old. It's kind of like people use like Quizlet now. Obviously I recommend Quizlet and like Know It and all these other ones that are very useful because they make flashcards for you. But Anki's kind of like the OG, and once you start to get the hang of it, it starts to become really easy to use, and I would really recommend it. I have made like maybe like 10,000, 15,000 since first year, and it's been like super helpful because I not only use it for like memorization core courses, but I started using it for organic chemistry. I used it a lot for organic chemistry this year, and it actually was really helpful, especially for those who are taking organic chemistry 2. You have to learn a lot of reactions. Same with the end of organic chemistry 1. So you can just like, what I do is I screenshot maybe like the initial materials and like the reagents, pop it on a slideshow, put like a question mark over the thing, and then when I think I know the answer, boom, just throw the answer. Or even for mechanisms, you put a box of the reaction conditions, draw the mechanism, and it's pretty useful. So there's so many applications, and tools like Anki are just so helpful, especially because you can do them on the bus. You can do them. You don't even have to pay for the app. You can also use the web app if you have data, and just quickly go through it. So
it is such a game changer.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next topic we want to talk about. Do you want to talk about university or school awards first?
Let's go with university, since I'm assuming a lot of our friends and maybe other university students will be watching this. And so university is obviously a big jump from high school. I am pretty sure we said that in previous episodes as well. But it definitely is a big jump. It's also because you're in larger class sizes and you may not get that one-on-one time with the prof that you always wanted. And even emailing profs, some profs are nice about it and they'll respond to you, but most of the time they're really busy because they're not only profs for that class, but other profs for other classes, but also researchers. So they don't really have a lot of time. So you really have to understand that there is a big jump. And I guess tools, I would definitely say use Anki again. Anki is definitely a big tool that I use now, and Jordan uses as well, even as a remote because he's so locked in like that. Yeah. I need to invest in a remote, so definitely put like a link in there or something.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description to get because there's many different remotes. I would suggest getting like the 8-beta one because those ones typically it's the easiest to hold and use. But there's many other remotes you can get. Like, you can get a whole game controller or something like that. I wouldn't advise that, but you can if you want it for the memes, the memes. But yeah, I'll say for university is a very big jump, like you said. Some tips for university per se to like feel like to be successful is always like you always got to stay on your like timing, right? Because I'm telling you, university comes fast, it comes quick. You might feel like those first 2 weeks are super light, and then you'll turn into the next week and be like, wait, I have a midterm. Like I'm telling you guys, that first anatomy midterm that came in like 3 weeks, I got shocked. I studied for it, but I got shocked, and I was like, damn, I have to like switch up like everything the way that how I used to do it. Because before you can just relax, when the dates come in and you're like, I can study like a day before, 2 days before, and I'll be locked. Yeah. I'm telling you, with university stuff, with how much content they're spewing at you, a great example for how much content they're giving out. I remember in high school, grade 12 biology, you learn about, or grade 11, I can't remember, but you learn about the photosynthesis and metabolism, cellular respiration mechanisms, and like how they go through, you have your ETC or for glycolysis and stuff for CR, and then for photo, you have the photosystem 1, photosystem 2, and then dark reactions. We learned all that in a day at uni. I'm telling you guys, like, you'll learn all that stuff that took like maybe 1 to 2 weeks. You learn all that in a day. And I'm telling you, like, all this thing is going to be like drinking water out of a fire hose. I hate using that quote because it like aches me for some reason, but it really is like that. So some advice I would give is, of course, time management. Of course, you always got to stay on your timing. And then also, don't be afraid to go to office hours. Like, I'm telling you guys, a lot of people don't go to office hours, and I've talked to people about this, and they tell me just because they're afraid of what the prof might say. And I'm telling you guys, like I said for the researcher, the prof is not going to start yelling at you, being like, how the hell do you not know this? Maybe some might, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to say names, but there was like a couple of times where it'd be like, come on, bro, like, how do you not know this? But like, if you just generally come in there curious, asking questions, they'll help you out a lot of times. Like, I know, do you usually go to office hours?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would. I should have taken that advice a long time ago. First year, I was definitely less about office hours. I think for Orgo and Gen Chem, my prof used to stay behind, like nearby near the class. So I used to go to that, but I never felt motivated enough, and that's one of the things I really regret because office hours usually maybe there's like max like 15 to 20 people, and your class sizes are going to be like, or if you're in university right now, your classes are like 400, 300 people. So just think about that and think about how much one-on-one time you can get, and especially if you're like concerned about something, asking chat or asking your friends aren't like reliable sources. Obviously there are good resources maybe for like practice questions or something, but if you really want to consolidate a concept, especially from someone who's making your tests, you should go to your prof. And I think first semester of second year, I started going to office hours way more often, and it made the biggest difference. So.
And even like just going out, even if you feel like you already know everything, just go and asking questions, like poking like at your like teacher, being like trying to get if you can get information on the test and stuff, or wording the way how you ask questions to try and get answers or what might be on is also very helpful because they'll remember that and they'll remember your face. And of course, like everybody remembers, like we need letter of recommendations for getting into med school or on your application. And that's one easy way to get letter of recommendations. Just always having the prof see your face, remember your name, recognize who you are, saying hi to them, because guys, they're humans too. They want people to say hi to them. Like they don't want to, you guys only just acting like robots, going in class, leaving class, going in class, leaving class. Like they want to be able to have interaction with people and showing your more humane side to them instead of just you're locked in, just robot. Oh, I gotta remember all this type. That can put a smile on their face. That puts a smile on their face, and it's a very good tip to help ease into the content of what you're learning. I'll say that. You got any more tips for university?
Office hours are a big one. Letter of recommendations was definitely a big one, and it's often an underlooked one. It's definitely building those relationships with the profs is very important, and that ties back into research and kind of these conferences that you were talking about. Because the ability to connect, and maybe like you'll find out that one of these profs that I'm talking to right now actually teach a course that is in my course sequence. So I mean, like that's pretty useful. When I go to him in class, he'd be like, "Hey, Namir, you were at the conference, right?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I was, yeah." And then be like, it's pretty cool. We can develop a connection, and it's not. And I mean, I'm not entirely sure about this. Just developing the connection, or maybe you don't do well in that class, you can obviously continue to talk with that prof over email, or if you see him or her every so often, and keep conversing, then maybe you can still get a letter of recommendation, because it's not necessarily about doing good in that class. It's also about being consistent about your attitude towards learning and your attitude to want to actually understand the content. Because if you're like really invested in the content, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, this student's really invested." And I said the same thing about research. If you're really invested in the research, they'll want you. That's what profs are like.
Exactly. Profs are like the exact same thing. And they also host their own research. So
yeah,
it is nice to join. Okay. And going into awards and getting certain things. You want to start off with the awards?
Sure. So awards is also another part of the thing on OMSAS that you kind of need. And obviously it's kind of hard to get every now and then. But thankfully, I know University of Ottawa and probably other universities across Canada have like these scholarship portals that you can apply to, and it has all the requirements. Maybe you need to do an essay, maybe you need to fill out your resume, your CV, whatever. So it's pretty useful, and it's often underlooked. So I definitely recommend any students who are interested in that take a look. I mean, some of them, people tend to get demotivated when you look at it, because you say, "Oh yeah, you need a 1,000-word essay and it's due in like 2 days, and it's at the top of the list because it's due in 2 days." So you can't really do anything about that, but it's definitely worth taking a look at. And I definitely would recommend USRO, because it's good for students who wanted to maybe jump into NSERC later on, and you have kind of this like building block in terms of student awards, and it does count as a scholarship, I believe, as well. So it's a good segue when you're wanting to jump into something bigger, or you want to start off your ball rolling in terms of research because you weren't able to get some before. Or just if you're really interested and you want to do a poster presentation, because I believe there's a competition at the end of USRO that you can compete against other students in order to get like first place, second place, and that counts as an award as well. And I'll keep talking just a little bit more. I also heard about some other ones. Obviously, there's these research competitions across UOttawa, and I'm mainly talking about UOttawa because I don't have much experience about other universities, so I can't really speak for them. But if you know anyone that's going to any other university, maybe they'll know some about it. So definitely, it's worth reaching out to. But I will definitely recommend doing a CYM, Connecting Young Minds research competition. I think first place gets like $3,000, second place gets $1,000. Your abstracts get published. It's an amazing way to take part in research and to connect with profs as well. I believe the entrance price is kind of pricey, but it's definitely worth the experience. You have USCC, which is the Synapse Case Competition. Again, I was planning to do it with a couple other friends, but it's definitely time consuming. So if you're able to have, like Jordan said, the proper time management in university, you'll definitely be able to kind of conquer that. But again, it's really time consuming. I remember my other friends who were applying, they didn't even get the proposal submitted because it's so much. You have to submit a proposal, confidentiality agreement, all this other stuff within like the first week of applying. And then we have Ignite medical case competition, HOSA case competition. There's so many case competitions, and awards are everywhere. You just have to know where to look. And honestly, making friends with the right people who want to have the same goals as you makes it 1,000 times easier. And there's so many other awards that are non-academic related that matter as much. There's the 21 under 21 Youth Ottawa Award. There's maybe like sports championship, sports intramurals, maybe stuff like that. And yeah, you just have to be proactive and look in the right places.
No, yeah, like she's still a lot of the good ones.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'll keep it something simple. You talked about a lot of awards you can get, especially you can also get awards in high school, guys. Like you get even awards like scholarships. I know a very big tip that you guys should know is that if you see, like, usually most schools, I know for my school, I don't know about yours, but they usually post, like, all the scholarships available that you can get before. I'm telling you guys, nobody applies to them. I might be hurting myself right now because I know there's some uni ones that I always apply to. I get some scholarship money, but like I'm telling you, apply to those scholarships. People are willing to pay you money for writing an essay. Get that through your brains. People are literally willing you to type words on your computer and pay you for it. Obviously, it's a competition. You have to write the best way. But just the fact that you're able to get money out of that, I feel is very neat and very helpful to people who might be struggling and things like that, especially when you might have to go through debt or you might have to go like through getting extra loans and stuff like that. So those scholarships really help a lot, and they can also build to awards because some of those scholarships are awards. Like there's the School Teacher Award or
Yeah.
the Schulich Award. I know there's some for academia and like I'm trying to say sport. No, I'm forgetting the name. Student athlete awards. Oh my god, I was thinking sport athlete. No, student athlete awards. There's a lot of those like that. There's some in my school that was like the principal award, like doing very outstanding, and you get an award for that. Like those are different things you can get in high school for awards that don't necessarily have to be fully academia, and you can prioritize to your needs. Like I know there's some for music and art. There's some for like being in band and stuff like that. There's a bunch of different awards and scholarships you can get, and those can help improve your resume and show more character about yourself, like things that you like to enjoy and things that you like to do about. So those are really important. All right, so we are nearing the end of the podcast. We hope we gave you guys the advice for pre-med. I know it's a very, very strenuous, stressful time in your life. Believe me, we're also very stressed. Well, right now we're on break, so we're not like be as stressed. I won't lie, we're not as stressed. But during the school year, all I say is that there is a reason why we had to take a bit of a break.
Yeah.
Like you just have to lock in. You got to take some stuff serious. Oh, one thing I did want to mention before we go into go off is personal projects, things that we
right,
like things you can work on for yourself because. A lot of people forget about this aspect, A lot of people think just to be like cookie cutter, checking the boxes of like my volunteer, my extracurriculars, high GPA, Maybe y'all even know about involvement in community, A lot of people know these things, but working on a personal project, people tend to take a back seat on because they feel like they don't have the time. But I'm telling you guys, you do have the time to work on personal projects. There's many different ones you can work on, You can actually work on, maybe yours is like a certain research project that you want to do on like the side or something that maybe you have help from a prof or something. There's other ones like, I know a friend who's doing like some like certain like YouTube type thing where they're like making a YouTube channel, like teaching different psychology things to you, like because they're very into psychology and becoming a psychiatrist. So you can do things like that. I know for us, the podcast, we're trying to develop this podcast to help teach people different things like going into university and what life might be like around this time. So we're doing things like that. Like, do you know any other person?
I mean, I think you covered like the big ones like YouTube and like these kind of unique. I think when I think of personal projects, I think of very unique ideas, and it's not always medicine related. Like ours is kind of like a mix of fun and medicine related because we want to talk about our goals, but we also want to talk about life as well. And it's just finding that balance. And I think my best advice would be to people who want to start a project is take a look at your friends, maybe some are in business, some are in tech, combine them together, do something fun with that, make something creative with that. And I think once you do that, that'll create just something out of the ordinary that maybe mid-school committees are going to look for and be like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. Or maybe if you're applying to scholarship, because these unique experiences on your CV are what make you as a person. And we said this before, that all these things tie back to who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. Just working on a personal project, guys. Like, if you have the time, I know you definitely have time in high school. I'm not going to lie to you. I know you definitely have time, especially if you're trying to go for pre-med. I know you probably have good enough grades. If you are doing well, I know you definitely have time. But like even if you have less time at university, I'm telling you, working on those personal projects can help bring like your uniqueness level up, and they're overall enjoyable, and something we can make money from, maybe starting a business. I don't know. All right. Do you want to get into quotes of the day before we head out?
I mean, we haven't done this in a while, but I decided, since probably gonna be a little bit until our next episode. And decided to re-download TikTok and Instagram because I thought, have a little bit of me time, have a little bit of fun time, doom scroll a little bit. Finally have a justification for that. But I was watching this video with Austin Butler, who's a famous actor on Elvis, and that's the only thing I named. But he was Elvis and Elvis. He was Elvis and Elvis. And he was on the subway with an interviewer, and he said, "Embarrassment is an underexplored emotion, so you should go out there and make a fool of yourself." And I thought that's really kind of crazy. And I saved that. And I literally was on the drive here. I was like, let me pull that up, and I'm just gonna talk about it because as someone who is so outgoing and extroverted, like I tend to be very cringe. Like I tend to embarrass my friends, and I was like, people get uncomfortable with it or they kind of get annoyed. But I'm like, it's just me. Like we often don't want to embarrass ourselves because we're afraid of showing our true person, and we're afraid of what other people think based off of that. And I hate that as people in a society, in like such a structured society, that we kind of have to hide who we are as a person because we're often scared of being judged. And this not only applies to like person-to-person interactions, but job interviews and making friends, living like being with your family, hiding your identity. And, it's just embarrassment shouldn't be something that holds you back. It should be a feeling, an emotion that you are allowed to like let go and be who you are as a person. Instead of being trapped in a jail cell, you're able to, let your spirit flow free. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I really like that quote. Don't be afraid of embarrassment. Like I've embarrassed myself a lot. Don't get me wrong. I've embarrassed myself a lot. If you guys met me back in the day, I was like the guy who used to always embarrass himself. Be funny, but also like self funny to yourself, like out of self detriment to yourself. So I was always goofy, I would say, and I think embarrassment is a very like emotion. I was trying to bring something to psychology, but because like we have the primary emotions like Ekman, and then the secondary ones, and embarrassment's one of the secondary ones, and the fact that it's secondary means it is very important. So I'd say embarrassment. Don't be afraid of it. If you're scared of going to approach somebody for maybe trying to get on the research, just try and like introduce yourself nicely, be like, "Hey, can I join in your conversation?" If you see them conversating with somebody, you don't even have to talk to them. Just being able to join into the conversation and be like, "Huh," and then hopefully they ask you a question and stuff, and then you can start talking about yourself. That's one way to get through it, through cold approaching. And I'd say the worst thing that can come out of embarrassment is like you could lose like your street cred, or like your cred, like bro, who cares about street cred? Like I'm telling you guys, in high school you're gonna care about your like popularity and your street cred and all that. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. Like none of that stuff matters by the time you get out of high school. I'm telling you. I'm telling you because I used to be those type of people, like, sports team, like everybody knows him or whatever. But I'm telling you, after high school, none of that matters. So yeah, don't be afraid to be embarrassed. Yeah. But that's a good episode for us from today. We had to come back on the pod. It's been a while. I don't. We'll see. We'll see. We might bring a guest. We'll bring a guest on next time. Don't worry. We have a few guests in mind that we want to bring in, and hopefully they bring us some more sauce.
Yeah.
Until next time, guys. See you.
All right. Peace out.